Right then, welcome back everyone. Today we're diving deep into something that's been quietly simmering in the MotoGP paddock. And no, it's not about lap times or tire choices, this is pure, unfiltered behind-the-scenes drama. We're talking about the bitter falling out between two of Ducati's satellite teams, VR46 and Gresini. The rivalry has become so petty that it's apparently driving the top brass at Ducati headquarters absolutely mad. On top of that, we'll also be looking at who's likely to fill the seats at Gresini for 2027, because that particular story is turning into quite the saga. Stick around, this one's a proper roller coaster. Let's rewind a little because none of this makes sense without the backstory. For more than 20 years, Pramac Racing was Ducati's golden child. They were the primary satellite team, always first in line for the latest machinery, the best technical support, and the most promising young riders on the grid. Put simply, they were Ducati's right-hand team. Then, ahead of the 2025 season, Pramac did the unthinkable and jumped ship to Yamaha. It was a massive bombshell that left Ducati with a huge hole to fill. Their solution? They decided to elevate VR46, the team owned by the living legend Valentino Rossi, into that prized number 2 satellite spot. On paper, it looked like a perfect move. The VR46 name alone brings enormous sponsorship value and fan engagement. In practice, however, it marked the beginning of a very messy chapter. Here, where things start to get really spicy, Ducati, in their wisdom, decided they wanted to move the young Spanish talent Fermin Aldeguer across to the VR46 team from 2027 onwards. On the surface, it might sound like a routine paddock reshuffle, but when you dig a little deeper, you quickly understand why Gresini absolutely hit the roof. Aldeguer has been flying the Gresini flag for 2 full seasons now. This isn't some rookie just passing through, the lad was nurtured, developed, and heavily backed by the team right from the start. And the results have been impressive, to say the least. In his very first season in MotoGP, he walked away with the Rookie of the Year title. This season, at just 21 years of age, he's been putting in seriously strong performances despite only recently returning from a nasty thigh injury that would have sidelined most riders twice his age. So imagine how Gresini must be feeling. You've done all the hard graft, the early mornings, the endless long-haul flights, the patient development work, and just as your investment is finally starting to pay off, the manufacturer turns around and says, "Cheers for that, we'll take him from here." It's like spending 3 years carefully tending your allotment only for your neighbor to stroll over and nick all the tomatoes on harvest day. Understandably, Gresini were livid. Now led by Nadia Padovani, the wife of the late great Fausto Gresini, the team reportedly started looking elsewhere. The rumor mill went into overdrive, with whispers suggesting they were on the verge of rekindling their old relationship with Honda, a classic case of running back to your ex when the current one turns sour. In the end, the split didn't happen. Gresini stayed under the Ducati umbrella. But let's be clear, the fact that it was even being seriously discussed says everything about how strained the relationship had become. Once trust is cracked, it doesn't mend itself overnight. And as it turns out, the frostiness between the two satellite teams has not thawed at all. Now here's the part that really grabbed everyone's attention. A senior Ducati executive who, for obvious reasons, chose to remain anonymous decided to speak candidly about the whole situation. What came out of his mouth was equal parts honest, hilarious, and slightly damning. His words, roughly paraphrased, were, "They simply do not get along. It's like constantly having to play referee between two bickering children who refuse to be in the same room as each other. Frankly, it's exhausting." Two bickering children, that's how a senior Ducati executive described their own satellite teams. You genuinely couldn't make it up. Here's one of the most successful manufacturers in the modern MotoGP era, a factory that's dominated the Constructors' Championship and produced multiple world champions, and they're having to spend their energy playing peacekeeper between two squabbling outfits who supposedly wear the same badge. The executive went on to suggest that if Gresini were to eventually walk away from the partnership entirely, it wouldn't exactly keep anyone at Borgo Panigale awake at night. Ducati, it seems, already have contingency plans in place. Depending on how you look at it, that's either reassuringly pragmatic or a fairly pointed message to the Gresini camp. All right, enough of the political theater. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of what Gresini are actually going to do about their 2027 rider lineup, because they've got quite the rebuild on their hands. Come 2027, the team will essentially be starting with a blank sheet. Allgaier, as we've established, is heading over to VR46. Alex Marquez, who, alongside his brother Mark, has been one of the more compelling storylines of recent seasons, is off to KTM, two experienced hands gone. What's left is a team with genuine heritage, a proud legacy, and precisely 0 riders confirmed for next season. One name that briefly appeared on the shortlist was Nicolo Bulega. He's currently leading the World Superbike Championship and making a very strong case for himself. For context, Bulega extended his Ducati contract last year to stay in WSBK while also taking on a test rider role for MotoGP, as the sport prepares for the switch to the new 850cc regulations in 2027. He's not entirely untested at the top level either. He deputized for Marc Marquez on 2 occasions last season and scored points in both outings, which is no mean feat when you're thrown in at short notice. But Gresini, it seems, weren't particularly keen. No official explanation was given, though one suspects the team wants a rider who can commit fully rather than someone juggling test duties and a full superbike program on the side. So who are the genuine frontrunners? 2 names have emerged with considerably more substance behind them. The first is Dennis Foggia, a young Spaniard currently making his mark in Moto2. Foggia has been developing steadily and represents exactly the kind of talent Gresini have historically been drawn to: raw, hungry, and with plenty of room to grow under the right guidance. If they can get him into the right machinery and give him time to settle, there's a real argument he could become something quite special at the top level. The second name, and arguably the more intriguing of the two, is Enea Bastianini. This one carries a certain romance with it. Bastianini's MotoGP journey began at Gresini, and it was in their colors that he claimed his very first Grand Prix victory, a win that announced him to the world as a genuine title contender. He's since moved on and is currently racing for the Tech 3 KTM outfit, but the prospect of a return to the team where it all began is apparently very much on the table. There's something poetic about going back to where you first tasted glory, isn't there? Whether that sentimentality translates into results is another matter entirely, but from a pure narrative standpoint, a Bastianini homecoming at Gresini would be a story worth telling. Now then, over to you. Which direction do you think Gresini should go? Should they take the experienced route and bring Bastianini back for a reunion full of real emotional weight, or should they back the future and put their faith in Foggia as a long-term project? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to hear where you lot stand on this one. And if you're enjoying content like this, do us a favor and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next installment. Tap the bell as well, that way you'll get notified the moment something new drops. Before you head off, I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. Do you think Gresini and Ducati can properly patch things up, or is a permanent split eventually inevitable? I've put a poll up in the community tab. Go and have your say. It only takes a second and it helps shape what we cover next. Right, that's your lot for today. Cheers for watching. Cheers for sticking it out right to the end. You're the good ones, genuinely. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and we'll see you back here very soon. Take care.